Welcome to another episode of WFAN Daily with your host, Pete Hoffman. Joining me right now, my pleasure, my honor, Jon Anik, who, by the way, I've loved your work ever since you became, the play-by-play for UFC. I didn't know as much about you. And when Dana White, when there was this change with Mike Goldberg, Dana White said, I'm going to bring in the best play-by-play guy ever. You're going to, basically wet yourself over this. And he never made this huge, big announcement. It was you. You've taken that mantle. You've raised the bar, my friend. So it's awesome to be in your presence.
I know we have connected from afar. It's nice to meet you in person. And for a Boston kid, by the way, being in the studios of WFAN New York is a dream come true, as trite as that may sound. But it's good to see you, and I appreciate the kind words. I remember back in 2011, wet behind the ears. I'm a full-time employee at ESPN. I get hired by the UFC, and Dana wants to introduce me at a press conference, Needless to say, I was pretty nervous, and I went and sat down on the dais, and he was like, do you have anything to say? You going to come take the podium? I just hired you to talk a lot. Maybe you can fucking say something, So that was great, and it's crazy to think, 15 years now through Fox and ESPN and now Paramount Plus. It's been a ride.
Dude, Paramount Plus. We've had this Paramount Plus read for about 4 or 5 months because all we do is talk about NFL. And Paramount Plus, you can get all the NFL games. It's all great. And I'm like, every time I'm doing the reader going, but the UFC is about to be here. Like, does anybody want to talk about that? I'm excited. Can you at least give us, what changes are going to occur, especially at UFC 324? Yeah. What's going to change, or is there anything that's going to be added to these broadcasts?
So if you are a combat sports fan and you're 18 or 22 years old, maybe you haven't dealt with the perils financially of being a combat sports fan, but let's at least start there, right? Because in our previous television deal, if you were watching a numbered event, previously called a pay-per-view, I don't have to tell you this, $79.99, right?
My wife hated me for that.
So you're $160 in 2026 in theory by February 1st with our first 2 numbered events. Now, this year with Paramount Plus, you're getting all 13 and the additional fight nights for under $90.
Dude, and you get all the catalog. I was scrolling through. Have you actually gone through the catalog yet? I know there's a lot to get to, but I've gone through, if you go through, the features, they got the legends. They got, Adesanya. They got Silva. They got everybody there. They got the championship fights. So, you got everything at your fingertips. It's unbelievable already, and I'm sure they're going to build onto it.
Oh, yeah. I remember when former Tampa Bay Rays third baseman Evan Longoria texted me, and he said, dude, I'm watching the UFC catalog beginning at UFC 1. Yes. I'm up to UFC 6. He was going to watch every single live event in the history of the company. But I actually have not seen a television format yet for January 24th. So I'm very excited in terms of the pageantry and all the bells and whistles. I don't even know if it's going to have a different feel off the top. When I say Dateline Las Vegas, right? I mean, it might be a desk now that throws to me. I don't really know exactly formulaically what changes there are going to be, but we're just excited to reach a wider audience. And I just think it's just a much more palatable experience for a combat sports fan that I think wondered internally, how am I going to have this conversation with my girlfriend about $79.99 Saturday night, and now you don't have to have that conversation.
Right. And also, here's the other thing, too, because a lot of guys that I talk to, a lot of people that were like, I want to watch the fights, I'll do it illegal streaming or whatever it is, because that's always a thing. No matter what you want to say, it always happens. Or you pick and choose the fight that you're going to buy. And that's gone to the wayside. Watch every single one. There's no more worry.
Yeah, right.
And that's amazing. Now, let's talk about real quickly your connection with Rogan and DC, because I think it's the coolest thing. Seeing your guys' pure reaction to a vicious knockout, the most explosive, choke out or whatever it is. Your reactions are priceless. It lives on the internet. Do you sit there and go, wow, I look weird doing that sometimes?
Yeah, dude, I look like I have a lot of issues on those shots, And I remember actually there was a time where there was such virality with those things that Dane actually stopped showing them for 6 months on broadcast and in-house because it's about the athletes, right? And all of a sudden, you're getting bigger reactions in the house when they show the commentators on screen is not necessarily what you're looking for. But it is a lens into our world, and there is no theater in pro sports as unpredictable as the UFC. And I think that is reflective in some of those shots. You're watching one guy win, and the next thing you know, he's twitching on the canvas, and the other guy has rallied to knock him out. And that's really what sets this sport apart for me, is that on any given Saturday night, the improbable happens all the time, whether it's a big underdog cashing or a crazy spinning back fist knockout or a nutty submission. We're conditioned to expect the unexpected, and I think our reactions certainly, bring that to the masses.
You talked about like watching some of these crazy knockouts and seeing somebody like, get knocked out cold, and you're like, ugh. You have to react, and you have to put out an exciting spin, no matter what the damage was to somebody else. We all know the Brandon Schaub story and Joe Rogan, where he's like, hey, maybe I don't want to see you out there anymore. Maybe it's time for you to retire. Who is like the one guy that you were closest to and you saw him on the end of his career and you're just like, I don't want to see you take any more damage anymore?
So my closest personal relationship among broadcast partners is with Dominic Cruz. I only had to call a couple of his fights. Thankfully, those were particularly difficult. But I would probably say in this conversation, Daniel Cormier is the broadcast partner with whom I've worked the most. He's chasing down a heavyweight championship, right, in a second division. And it was amazing to be able to capstone that moment for him. But then on the other side, when he loses to Stipe, and, that's my broadcast partner, and I'm saying, Stipe exacts his revenge. That call has to be there for Team Miocic, and that call has to withstand the test of time. And as soon as DC hits the tunnel, I'm not thinking about our friendship or his kids or any of that stuff. But it is hard when your friends go in there. It is far easier to sort of put that friendship on the back burner at the beginning of the fight. As soon as it ends, those feelings come back to the surface. But I got a job to do and just try to keep in that tone.
And you do it amazing. And honestly, I always tell people, because I working at WFAN, that's what we do. We do football, baseball, we do all stuff. You know the lay of the land. And I'm like, you guys gotta go to a fight and just see the crowd, see the reactions from everybody. But then you gotta watch it live too. You gotta watch it on pay-per-view or now on Paramount Plus because you guys are the best in the business. You're truly.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that, really, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to be as listenable as possible for 8 hours. As a sports fan, right? We're trying to be additive and elevate the live event and not get in the way. And I think when I think back to my formative years as a sports fan, Sean McDonough was the guy for me, the best play-by-play announcer. You could do all sports, and love the way he deadpans, the comedic stuff. But for me, oftentimes, I wasn't really paying attention to the announcers unless they bothered me or got in the way of the sporting event. So when you shower praise upon us, we're really just trying to add to the live event. And if that means, laying out and letting the natural sound take over, that's what we do. So 8 hours on a headset, man, nothing easy about it. So I appreciate you saying that.
And I love that you guys are keeping pretty much the same cast. You have a new addition to Paramount Plus as Kate Scott.
Yes.
CBS Sports Kate Scott is now joining. That's cool. I love Megan O'Leary. She is talking about a hustler. I know you hustle back and forth. You're running crazy, but I work for the Giants as well. I broadcast a lot of games where I see Megan O'Leary on the sideline. I'm like, weren't you just doing UFC?
Yeah.
Don't you have a kid? What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
But Kate Scott's an awesome addition as well.
Yeah, no, we got a lot of talent on the UFC broadcast team, and Kate's a huge addition. And I was speaking about her earlier today. She's just such a natural orator. And I think especially on the desk, you have got to be natural. You've got to be a great listener. You got to be able to pivot depending upon what your analyst says. And I think she's a huge addition. As I mentioned, I still haven't seen a format, so I don't know exactly what the roles are going to be. But anytime Kate Scott wants to take some of that heavy lifting away from me, I'm all for it.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk about the main or the co-main event. Fell through already, which is so disappointing because you talk about juicy fights. Like I'm going to watch no matter what because I'm just the P1. But Amanda Nunes getting back in the cage, that was a huge pop. Her versus Harrison was just like unbelievable. I was looking so forward to that fight, and now it's off, and it's going to be maybe pushed back for 6 months. Who knows? How is it for you as a broadcaster to be like, damn, like that was a juicy fight, and we have to transition, but still amp up this card?
I love the way you asked that question because I am here today in a promotional capacity. But I would like a chance to talk about how devastating a blow this is for Kayla Harrison. The UFC 324 card is still going to sustain. But, my man, in the men's or women's game, right, there are no guarantees that these fights ever happen. And this is as big a fight as we can put together, male or female. So I'm just digesting the news. I was walking to the studio. I saw Kayla Harrison coming out the other side of neck surgery. So she's already gone under the knife. Perhaps that bodes well for them aligning these two women in 6 or 8 months. But if I'm Amanda Nunes, I'm trying to compete before then. Big picture, I guess Sean O'Malley now gets elevated, which is certainly an exciting thing for him. And I think Gaethje and Pimblett in a main event is just absolutely absurd. So I think that sort of sells itself. But just feel for Kayla, feel for Amanda. We're less than 2 weeks out.
I know. This happens all the time, trust me. For the diehard core fans that are like, hey, I remember Khabib and Tony Ferguson. We've been through those. We've been on those paths many times. This was up there, man. And this is the thing. It's like, so this is one thing I want you to tell us because I'm in it. But what fighter, like O'Malley has a pop? Obviously Gaethje has a pop. Patty has a pop. What fighter are we missing right now who's on the verge of breaking out that's going to be like that next star fighter in the UFC?
So we could almost go division by division, right? You certainly have a young flyweight champion, Joshua Van, but then there are two guys, Manel Kape and Tatsuro Taira, that I think, depending on who gets the championship opportunity, could do a lot with it. If you move up to the bantamweight division, you've seen Merab Dvalishvili become a global superstar. But there's a young bantamweight in Peyton Talbot that I think might actually be the champion by the end of the year. As crazy as that sounds for bold predictions, that was the one I offered up. So we have a lot of young talent across a lot of divisions. I do think that we need more momentum and traction when it comes to the heavyweight division and the light heavyweight division. And our champions are stars right now, but we need them to be competing. The middleweight division, the welterweight division have never been stronger. Ateba Gautier is a guy in the middleweight division, the Cameroonian who competes at UFC 324. A lot of people not only believe he's destined for future greatness, but think he's going to be a future world champion. So I guess I would say Peyton Talbot and Ateba Gautier are the two young talents that I think could make the most expeditious of rises in 2026.
I hate to bring his name up because I don't think he's ever going to come back into the UFC, but Francis Ngannou, I think, needs to come back. Because you talk about that heavyweight division. That is one of the fighters that I think is really missing from the heavyweight division because you look at all these champions and he was somebody who was at the prime. We always dreamed of that John Jones fight. Yeah. There was so much love for that. Is there any way, and I love Dana, I love his product, I love what he does.
Yeah.
There's got to be, it can't be over for Francis Ngannou because you've given chances to other guys to come back.
Certainly second chances have been afforded other fighters. We have seen certain fighters like Paul Daly who threw a punch after the bell and he was never given another opportunity in the UFC. Francis's case is a unique one. He's signed to another promotion and there is undeniable friction between him and Dana White. So I am a betting man. If you're saying, pistol to my temple, do I think we ever see Francis Ngannou in the octagon again? I would say no, but your point is well taken. I mean, that's the injection that division needs right now. Could you imagine him being in a mix with Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane, whom he fought, of course, and Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's fighting Derek Lewis this weekend? We need bodies, right? The heavyweight division, I think, has less than 30 guys in the.
Is it that low?
Yeah, I think it's that low. So I don't think we're going to see Ngannou, but
you have a roster of like 500, right?
I think it's closer to 650.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have 30 heavyweights.
Yeah.
Oof. Dana, get on that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't realize it was that low.
What are you doing, man? What's your weight? No.
I'm unfortunately
You're probably a 205er.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I am unfortunately way above it.
But if you were fighting, you're probably cutting down to 206 fighting as a light heavyweight or no?
Yeah, no, I'd definitely be a heavyweight, but I'd try to, right now I can't hit that 265. I am struggling, my man. Trust me, I've been getting killed for it every day. By the way, I want to kill you for a little bit too because you are a Patriots fan. You're a New Englander, so obviously being New York, I have to show my respect here. Patriots, Derek May. Is Derek May? Drake May. Why am I saying Derek? But Drake May. I understand you guys are the top seed in the AFC East, but you guys aren't that good. You're paper tigers, and the Giants beat the same team that you did last week in the LA Chargers. Patriots aren't going to get too far this year in the playoffs.
Well, I know we're at WFAN, but I don't know how the New York Giants entered their way into this conversation at all. So
Hey, we
Julian
just signed
Edelman-
We just got John Harbaugh today.
No,
that's
I think
big
that's
deal.
big.
That's big deal.
Yeah, if you can't get Bill Belichick, you go get John Harbaugh. The Giants wanted Bill Belichick forever.
I know.
It didn't work out, but I do think that John Harbaugh is the next best thing, and I think it's huge for the Giants, and I absolutely love the young core. And as I've gotten older as a sports fan, I have softened a little bit, right? Like, I wouldn't mind seeing the Buffalo Bills fans actually get
Really?
to experience some.
Even though it's the AFC East.
Well,
like,
that's
a
the
rival.
tricky thing. I mean, even last year in the World Series, like I grew up I hate the Yankees.
Yes.
But I hate the fucking Blue Jays. You know?
Yeah.
And they're playing the Dodgers, who everybody hates. But it's like,
Everybody.
I'm not rooting for a team in the American League East to necessarily win the World Series. Julian Edelman believes the Patriots are a year away. And I think most hardcore Patriots observers believe that they are a year away. They're exceedingly well coached. Obviously, Drake May looks like he is going to be an amazing quarterback for the better part of a decade.
Smart move by not trading him to the Giants, which they tried hard to do.
But yeah, no, I do think the AFC is wide open, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 quarterbacks still alive right now who are in their 3rd year or younger, right? And then you have Josh Allen, who's probably the best player in the NFL. So the AFC is wide open. But yeah, I don't think they're paper tie, right? Like the Broncos could barely beat the Jets. The Patriots blew out all the bad teams, right? They went 8-0 on the road. They really should have been 16-1, right? I mean, they should have beat the Bills and the Steelers and been fucking 16-1. So paper Tigers, I think, is a little strong. I think they're going to lose to the Texans this weekend. So I'm a realist, but the future's bright, baby.
No, it is very bright. And I mean, as a Jet fan, the fact that I had to watch your, domination for so long in the AFC East, and the fact that we thought that Jared Mayo was going to help tank this team for years to come, and within a year, Mike Vrabel's like, nah, we're back to relevancy. We're taking the 2 spot in the AFC. It's just ridiculous.
I never thought I would get to a place in life, and I'm 47 years of age, where I would have a heart for Jets fans. But I'm being serious. I'm not trying to be funny though, because the Patriots were the laughingstock of the NFL my entire life.
Yeah.
My record in Foxborough as a fan is still well below 500. My grandfather tortured us. He made us stay until Dan Marino finished whipping our asses 46-3. He made us listen to the post-game show the whole way back. So I put in my time. And when I see the starved New York Jets fans or Toronto Blue Jays fans or Buffalo Bills fan, part of me, has a heart. And I would love to see the great Jets fans experience what I've had the luxury of experiencing. It's fucked up what that franchise has to deal with.
It really is. That's why I wanted, when they said they were hiring Aaron Glenn, I'm like, I actually took a year off. I'm like, I am not going to watch or engage in the Jets as much as I normally do, because this is not going to go well. And I'm not stupid. So I wish they would fire him, and nothing against Aaron Glenn, because it's the same thing. Brian Daboll's going to be a good head coach in the NFL. I could feel it.
I think so too.
Aaron Glenn could be a good head coach in the NFL. They just don't. They're just not good head coaches for the Jets, especially first year. It doesn't happen. Look at Todd Bowles, Tampa Bay. So the Red Sox. What are you guys doing? And Chaim Bloom was the one who really started this, because when he came in, he said, "I'm going to trade away your best player, Mookie Betts." I mean, that was one of the worst moves in franchise history. And now you brought in the guy, Alex Bregman, last year. He goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
You got a pitcher, but Rafael Devers you got rid of. What are you doing?
So I am an optimist when it comes to the Red Sox. Now, I certainly wish that John Henry would maybe put more money into the team. They did just with the Ranger Juarez contract cross over that second luxury tax threshold. They made a mistake on Mookie Betts, but they were smart to get out of that Rafael Devers contract, right? I don't want some chubby third baseman whose contract is going to look terrible in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, they maybe overpaid this left-handed starter from the Philadelphia Phillies, but he's an absolute gamer, and I think it remains to be seen. I tend to give front offices the benefit of the doubt. And let me just say this to you, right? As much as maybe I like Boston or you like New York, Alex Bregman's got a wife who might be like, honey, I got a lot of friends in Chicago. It's amazing in Chicago in the summer. I'd like to raise the kids in Chicago over the next 5 years. And if the deals are similar, I want out of Boston. And you just don't know, right? Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, he's back raising his kids in New England, and that's where he wants to be. And you just don't know everything that factors into these equations. I think part of Alex Bregman wanted to see this thing out alongside Roman Anthony, but I tend to be more of an optimist than somebody who bangs on the front office. And when it comes to free agents like this left-handed starter who I've seen pitch twice, you still got to get these guys to take your money. And rotation looks strong.
So the money aspect, right? Now we're going to circle back to UFC. So we see a guy like Scott Boras, who is there to basically get his clients paid.
Yeah.
And I mean, whether it's Pete Alonso, which people didn't think he was going to get paid, but he ended up getting a 5-year deal, $155 million, plus whatever he got last year, which is 30. If you do the lump sum of what he was originally offered, he blew away what the Mets offered him a few years ago.
Yeah.
Bregman got paid.
Yep.
I mean, everyone keeps on getting paid from Scott Boras. In the UFC, we know that it is especially for the lower end fighters who are trying to build up, it is tough to get paid. We know that there's never really going to be a union. It's not going to happen. But how do you, back to the Francis Ngannou thing, how do you get to keep the top end fighters from leaving? Is there a way to, I know that I mean, now especially with this deal, there's no paper. I don't really know how it's working out, but there's no pay-per-view buys. There's no so is there going to be a new level of negotiating with these fighters to keep them so that you don't lose them to third-party promotions?
Yeah, I mean, I am less worried about that because the value of the UFC for these athletes is such that there really isn't anywhere else to go. If you truly want to prove yourself as the best in the world, for better or for worse, there's one place to do it. I do think in terms of the structure of these contracts, they're going to take on a different tone. Certainly, I think there might be some incentive for well-performing cards for those athletes to be bonused on the back end because of well-performing cards. But generally, I think you're going to have bigger guarantees, and the athletes are going to be taken care of, and hopefully the broadcasters too, right? But we have a huge television contract, and, I think a lot of the athletes and a lot of the staff members feel like they have played integral roles in helping the company procure that type of television deal. So I think Alexander Volkanovski is going to have a great guarantee for UFC 325, and he deserves every penny.
He does. One thing I'd like to see removed from broadcast, and I don't know, I think this was an ESPN thing, but when they forced Megan O'Leary to do the side-by-side interviews during the fights with the coaches, and I understand the coaches weren't bothered by it, but that was one thing that I always felt it was distracting. I can't stand it when they do that with the managers with ESPN too. And just not the ESPN, there's other broadcasts that do that. I feel it's distracting. It's a bad timing for it. Do you feel the same way?
So I can't remember too many instances in which we've actually done that. Now, when we go to the corner audio, how do you feel about that?
Well, that I love.
Okay, because I don't really remember many in fights.
Oh, I don't know if it was many in fight, but there was definitely during just before it started up, just before the round would start up, they'd go to Megan.
Yeah. So that I totally feel you on that, and that is one of the now I get you. So this sport moves so fast, bro, that if I'm trying to tell a human interest story, sometimes I got to bail on that thing mid-round because some dude's throwing an elbow or slapping a guy in the face or whatever. So yeah, I feel your pain a little bit on that, and that's constantly sort of a navigation for us is I'll be in my head, inner monologue, thinking, this dude's grandfather passed away 2 weeks ago. Do I have enough time right now? Do I have 12 seconds to thoughtfully tell this story? And then once you commit, you just got to go. But yeah, it's a tricky navigation. But your feedback is well taken, especially somebody who ingests as much of this stuff as you do.
Dude, and I love Megan. It was never Megan's fault, but I'm like, you'd have these random shots. I'm just like, that's not really a proper place for it. But again, I can't stand when MLB does it, when NFL does it. There's just times and places for that type of thing. The BMF fight, when it got introduced to MSG, which by the way, it was one of the best cards ever. When Trump walked in, everyone's like, "Oh, there's a lot of booze going on here." I'm like, I don't know. Everyone seems to love this guy wherever he goes, but that's besides the point. That was one of the coolest fight nights ever, or pay-per-views. This is the 4th or 5th installment of BMF.
Yeah, I think it's in that range.
Yeah, because you got Gaethje. This is his second time.
Yeah,
Poirier and Holloway
had to defend this thing already.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So take me through, because this is a huge fight.
Yeah,
Paddy Pimblett, by far, this is his biggest fight to date because Justin Gaethje is a beast. We know his knockout prowess. We know he goes for wars. Patty, sometimes people think that he's gotten some cupcake fights. This is not a cupcake fight. Tell me about this fight and how you think it's going to go.
So I sat down with Justin Gaethje a few weeks ago, and I asked him, do you know what the betting line is? And he said, yep, I'm 8-3 as an underdog in the UFC. I'm ready to go. But Paddy Pimblett is the favorite, and I think he deserves that distinction. He is the younger athlete. And I think even if Gaethje has the overall athletic advantage, he's basically a scratch golfer. I mean, he could do anything. I think Paddy Pimblett has more MMA skills and is actually the better MMA athlete. He is 7-0 in the UFC. Some people argue Jared Gordon should have beaten him. But skill for skill, I think Paddy Pimblett has more ways to win. And he's just such an electric personality. I mean, I don't know how you, as a hardcore fan, feel about him. But when he cracks a mic and he addresses the fan base, nothing's pre-scripted. It's all shooting from the hip, and he is a master orator, not unlike Conor McGregor. So he has me eating out of the palm of his hand, and I'm the play-by-play guy. I can't say that about the entire roster, but I'm all in on Paddy Pimblett. It's a fascinating fight, and the last time Justin Gaethje won an interim lightweight title against Tony Ferguson, he threw the belt on the ground,
yeah, I
right?
remember.
And I asked him about that as well. But the interim championship surfaces because the undisputed champion is not ready to go for whatever goddamn reason. And that's our reality at January 24th. And Justin is much more understanding of what the interim belt means this time around. So
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not going to throw it on the ground if he wins it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me because Justin Gaethje's a guy who you want to root for. You want to see him hold the belt. You want to see him have his day. That's the same thing with Poirier. Like a lot of these fighters, like fan favorites. Like Cowboy Cerrone was one of those guys where it's like, I love that hard-nosed attitude back in the day where he was like, dude, I'll fight anybody. I don't care. And then at one point in time, I was like, oh, I probably should go and win a belt maybe. That would be nice for my legacy. Right. He's a Hall of Famer anyway. But as a fan, you kind of want to see him hit that pinnacle because not many guys get to do it. We know how hard it is to keep a belt, nonetheless win it. And now, obviously, we're talking about Sean O'Malley, who that guy was going to be the... Talk about Paddy Pimblett's star power and just poise. Sean O'Malley is supposed to be that guy. He was the guy that everyone put on the pedestal for bantamweight, and he just, Merab did what it does. He did what he does. Is Sean O'Malley going to be able to get back to the top and take over the UFC?
I like the way you phrase that. So Sean certainly has the appetite for the training, and I think skill for skill, he's actually better than people think, just in terms of the grappling and the wrestling, even though his last two fights have left a little bit to be desired. But there have been a lot of elite bantamweights who were chomping at the bit to fight someone like O'Malley, sort of take his fan base, and also because they believe they can take him into deep waters and make him drown. And Merab did it twice. Petr Yan is in the best form of his career. He fought Sean O'Malley very closely when Petr Yan was the number one contender, and Sean O'Malley took that number one. I think Petr Yan's going to be really hard for Sean to beat in 2026. So if that's the current champion, I think that's a really hard navigation for Sean. But I think Song Yadong this weekend or next weekend is a favorable matchup, and I think Sean's going to be given every benefit of every doubt because he's the biggest superstar in the division. But he puts a lot of pressure on himself. We're all our own harshest critics, but that is particularly the case when it comes to Sean O'Malley. And were he to suffer a third straight loss to Song Yadong this next weekend, that would probably close the book on his championship hopes in the UFC. He's been there. He's defended the belt. His legacy in part is entrenched, but he wants to get back to the top of the heap. There's a sour taste in his mouth right now.
And Song Yadong, we all know he's got elite striking. He's just a phenom too. Give me the matchup between those two. How do you feel? Who has the upper hand in that match when they go into the cage?
So in terms of vision and distance management, setting traps on the feet, footwork, advantage O'Malley. But you make one wrong turn and you're Sean and you're twitching on the canvas. Song Yadong is a power player. And if I was Song Yadong, I would never wear a shirt. I don't care if it's 30 degrees. He looks so good with his goddamn shirt off. Fascinating matchup.
I had that problem.
But I do believe that there are promotional considerations made when it comes to the stars at the highest level. And I do believe that if you're looking at the top 10 and you're looking for a favorable matchup for Sean O'Malley, I think you land on Song Yadong. This is a fight that he should win.
Jon Anik, one more question for you, because you said it earlier. He's like, Amanda Nunes fight that we wanted to see, got scrapped, unfortunately. You would recommend her to get back into the cage before a Harrison fight. Kayla Harrison fight. Why is that? Because it seemed like she didn't even want to fight. She retired. She came out of retirement for this.
Supposedly Amanda Nunes has been training for a while, even though the comeback sort of was announced not too many weeks in advance of January 24th. So when the fight was announced, I was sort of thinking maybe Amanda needs a little more time, but she insisted that was not the case. There is inherent risk in a tune-up fight, right? If she fights Norma Dumont for the interim bantamweight championship and loses that fight, the Nunes-Harrison fight goes away. Promotionally, would they take that risk? I don't know. But I think that if I'm Team Nunes, I'm trying to fight on January 24th. I'm not trying to lose this training camp. It doesn't seem as though the UFC is going to go in that direction. It seems as though it is going to be a postponement. But yeah, if I'm Team Nunes, understanding the magnitude of the Harrison fight, I'm trying to fight Norma Dumont on January 24th. I think the tune-up makes some sense.
UFC 324 on January 24th. Then the next week, UFC 325 in Australia. Did you happen to run into our guy Mike Brown last year? Was it last year at 312? Supposedly, Mike Brown, head coach of the Knicks, said the first thing he did after he got fired was he went to Australia to UFC.
Yeah, I saw him there. Yeah, I didn't get to shake his hand, but I saw him there.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's the first thing I want to do when I get fired is what UFC event's going on. I want to go check it out. Oh, you know what? Before I let you go, I have to apologize because I ran into him in Vegas because I traveled with the Giants. I ran into him in Vegas when we played the Raiders. Mark Ratner, the guy that no one ever really talks about, but you see him every single event. He's there from the opening prelims to the end of the night. He's unbelievable. I had to shake his hand. Tell me the impact that he's had with the UFC.
Mark Hall of Fame Ratner. I like to joke with my good friend Mark. I'm pulling up a text because he texted me yesterday, actually. But I'm like, dude, how many Hall of Fames? Like, can you save a Hall of Fame induction for the rest of us, you know? But he was asking me if I was working the TKO Zuffa boxing debut the night before UFC 324. And I said, I'm not working it. But he said that he is pushed to have monitors in front of the boxing judges. As far as he knows, the first boxing promotion to ever have video monitors for the boxing judges. So here's this guy, north of 80, just still trying to affect change when it comes to combat sports. I used to have him on my Mouthpiece Boxing radio show in 2003 and 2004. And so that was certainly one of the more exciting offices for me to walk into when I joined the company in 2011. But just a great individual and always an open ear for us. So dude, very happy to have a relationship with that guy, you know.
Yeah, when I saw him, I don't really get starstruck, which is weird because of all the people I've met. He was one who was like, I have to talk to you. I have to say hello. You don't know who I am, but you've made an impact because he really does. What big impact has he changed with the UFC in your opinion?
New York, right? I mean, there was a time where we were not sanctioned in New York, and then there was a time where we were doing a ton of shows in New York, going to Utica and Rochester and everywhere else. But in terms of regulation, it's just wild to think about how far the UFC has come and where the UFC was not all that long ago. I mean, do you remember when we were going to like South Dakota and Bangor, Maine, and extending our tentacles to all these states that previously didn't sanction this sport? Knowledge is power, right? MMA is superficially violent. I covered a boxing death in 2005. I mean, that sport's insane.
Yeah.
American football is insane. But I think Mark Ratner's lasting impression will be the regulation stuff and the fact that he believed, not unlike someone like me, so bullishly in the UFC that, you know, we would leave pretty good situations in the sports world to come join this machine because we believed in Dana and believed in the sport.
Yeah, well, that was a good move by everybody. And for the casuals, explain to them why UFC is not as, listen, it's violent. No one's going to take that away, but it's not any different than boxing or football or all these other violent sports, like especially concussions.
I sound like a mouthpiece, right? The promotion cuts my check, right? But part of this is a miles per hour equation, right? There are serious injuries in the NFL every single game, every week. And part of that is because you can get yourself going 22 miles per hour to throw yourself into another human being. You can only get yourself going so fast in the octagon. Blood is superficially violent. The face bleeds a lot. My mom will never get past the blood, right? But, I mean, you can bleed 2 pints and it can only need 1 stitch or 0 stitches. The face bleeds a lot. I mentioned I covered a boxing death in 2005. That sort of shook me up. And in boxing, you know, you get knocked down, you get a concussion, but as long as you can stand up and show yourself 10 seconds later, come get another concussion.
Yeah.
It's hard to get 2 concussions in an MMA fight, and I think that's why we haven't had a death nor serious injury. Yeah, combat sports isn't for the faint of heart, but relative to the narrative, mixed martial arts isn't nearly as dangerous as hockey or American football or some of these other sports out there.
I will leave it at this. My one of my middle stepson, was walking by as we were watching fights, and my youngest and my oldest love UFC. My middle guy was questioning it, and he's watching, and he goes, "What's with all the blood?" I go,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's what happens in these fights." He goes, "This is his job." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I'd quit."
Ha!
So, and I was
I
like,
like that.
I respect it. I get it. So it's not for
Well,
everybody.
people ask me a lot, like, "Are you a fighter?" It's like, no. I would not. No, I would not do that for a living.
Right. I don't recommend my kids fighting.
Yeah.
But I love to watch it, and God bless them, because, and I always praise the fighters because they are intellectual, because of the amount of knowledge they need to know to get into that cage. It's mixed martial arts. It's not just combat. It's not just punching. It's all levels of mixed martial arts. They're very knowledgeable. They know what they're getting involved in. And again, it's Rogan. I think you've said it before too. You can't go into a fight with like, I'm not really sure if I want to do this. If you do that, that's when you get hurt. And I think every single fighter that walks into that cage has the premise of, I'm going to win. They have that confidence, and that's what's needed. But Jon Anik, I just want to say thank you so much.
Man.
You're the man. I'd love to do this forever, to be honest with you. You're fucking awesome. Can't wait. UFC 324 on Paramount Plus. I'm excited. You seem pumped. Everyone's jacked about it. So thank you so much for joining, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, my man. Good to chop it up with you, brother.
Appreciate you.